Um, I see being a woman in a male-dominated industry as a bit of a superpower.
Yeah.
Because we have intuition, and I think so much about being a risk and resilience professional is getting people to understand concepts, for people to buy in and really embrace things. And I think because we have intuition and we have the ability to relate and quickly pivot and change to adapt to the room that we're speaking to, I actually feel that it's been quite a superpower. And
Everyone, welcome back to the Resilience Pod, the podcast helping you become resilient in our world full of disruptions. You're here with me, your host, Rita Singh. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am truly grateful. Today, we are discussing how to really make an impact in the resilience industry from a woman's perspective with my next guest, who I am super excited to have found online, who is a fellow risk and resilience professional with experiences in a whole array of sectors. She is an entrepreneur, a fellow podcast host, speaker, strategist, and one who takes immense pride in empowering individuals and organizations to think differently about how they go about doing their business. So a woman after my own heart, I have to say, and I'm really super excited about this. So please join me in welcoming my next guest from South Africa, Junita van der Colff. Hi, Junita. How are you doing?
hello, Rena. Fine, and yourself. And thank you for having me. It's such a privilege to be on your show, and equally as excited to have these discussions and to have found you. So I'm very happy to be here.
Yay, thank you. And you know what's funny, like when we've been talking, is we both have similar visions, if not the same. So this is really exciting, and this is going to be one of the episodes that you guys, if you're watching or listening, you are going to be so glad you've tuned in. So let's just get right into it, because we are all excited. What does it take, firstly, to build a career as a woman in the resilience industry?
Rita, oh my word, you made me think about this, because I never actually thought about being a woman and doing what you do. You kind of just get on with it, right? So studied economics and law. I didn't even know that the risk and resilience industry existed. Kind of ended up in it by default, and was just really privileged to have great opportunities, great mentors and strong women along the way that could help guide me. Worked really hard, continued to study. Even if I had like small babies, I still have this picture of my baby sitting on my lap, 4 weeks old, and I'm busy studying for a risk exam. And I think at the time it was just very normal. But looking back, I think it was really tough, and I mean, a lot of sacrifices that came with that, but so fulfilling. And happy to have had a very privileged career so far, where I can really do what I love and what I'm passionate about. So people say, like, you work so hard, and I'm like, but it doesn't feel like work. So I'm one of those lucky people that just really doesn't feel like I have to work, that it's work. It's really just having fun and inspiring and empowering as we go along.
Yeah, and that's quite insightful, actually, because sometimes, because resilience was traditionally a male-dominated industry, it felt like this huge challenge. And this is why I like kind of asking any fellow women in resilience that I speak to, like, how has it been? And a lot of the people are saying, well, actually, it's been no different. Like, yes, you're juggling all these things, but it's actually, it's what you make it. And I think that's the key takeaway for anyone who's watching or listening. It doesn't really matter. What would you say to that?
I see being a woman in a male-dominated industry as a bit of a superpower.
Yeah.
Because we have intuition, and I think so much about being a risk and resilience professional is getting people to understand concepts, for people to buy in and really embrace things. And I think because we have intuition and we have the ability to relate and quickly pivot and change to adapt to the room that we're speaking to, I actually feel that it's been quite a superpower in a lot of instances. So I think there's strength and vulnerability, and I think as women, we shouldn't change anything about ourselves to fit in. We should actually embrace being a woman and using the abilities and what makes us different to our benefit. So yes, I've never really seen it as a struggle, but more really an opportunity. And like I say, it's what you make of it, like in everything in life.
I absolutely love the fact that you said it's a superpower. This is a first, and this is a quotable material here. So, ladies, if you are watching, it's your superpower. And gents, well, I know we've got a whole following of males as well, fellow male supporters, but this. Wow, I am so pumped about hearing that, and I've just never really seen it like that. So I love that, guys. Take note of what Junita has said. Now, one of the other things about working in the resilience industry is sort of not being the same. There's lots of us doing it, and the way to be really successful, and I mean, success is defined in lots of different things, but it's about the impact you make. And you've done so much things within your career, which is so, when I look at all the things you've done, I'm just like, wow, like, the emoji with the hearts with the face. It's like, wow, this lady is inspiring, so you need to go and check her out. But it's about making an impact, right? And you pride yourself in challenging organizations to think differently and people. So how can we make an impact, and what have you done personally that transfers to the advice that you're giving the listeners and viewers?
So I'm going to start on a personal level. And whenever I mentor somebody, I always tell them to start with your why. Because if you understand your purpose, you would, and if your purpose matches what you're doing in your career and matches the impact that you're making, I think it's such a fulfilling place to be. I think I was very privileged at a young age to figure out my why. My why is to empower. And if somebody's doing really well and I can make a difference and they walk away and they're like, wow, Junita, I just feel so inspired and motivated, that's my why. So I think taking my why, my purpose, and translating that into business. And I think, like I said, I kind of ended up in risk and resilience by chance, but I saw an opportunity here and I said, it's amazing because I get bored very quickly, by the way. And I think if you get bored very quickly, like risk and resilience is your space, because it's ever changing, it's evolving. It's quite a new discipline. I get to work with various industries, from oil and gas to transport to financial services. I get to know the inside of these organizations, and it's an amazing privilege to have. So I think it's really start with the why, and then if I wrote down a few notes that I can share with the audience of things that I've learned. The one thing is, I often get your passion and your energy is contagious. And when I do a lot of training of risk and resilience professionals, and I said to them, you cannot go and stand in front of people if you don't believe in it yourself, right? So you need to be energetic and passionate about it, because that thing, like, it's contagious. I do think one of the reasons why people often struggle to respond well of business to risk and resilience is that they don't understand. So it's a lack of understanding. And I feel like it's our role as risk and resilience professionals to educate them and really empower them at all levels. So right from the board that you assume might know certain things to the cleaning lady in the office. So I think it's very important that we educate and empower continuously. Have the courage to ask the difficult questions. As an independent person, I'm often the fresh pair of eyes that looks at something because they're so entrenched in it. And I think if you ask the right questions, you often guide business to the answer. You don't have to give them the answer, even though you know the answer. So just playing that role of guiding them. And then I on a personal, I continuously challenge myself and saying that, am I just doing this because we've been doing it for the last 10 years and that's the way that it's done? Or is there a better, more efficient, more impactful way to do things? And that then drives innovation in what we do as well.
And you know what? This is just so simple to do. And It's like you know, you think it's going to be like this, you've to make an impact, you've got to do all these thousands of things, but actually it's the small things that actually make the biggest impact, and that's what I'm hearing from you. And it's about that consistency and that wider awareness, which I think really does change people's mindset in the role that we have, which is, yep, no one day is the same, although sometimes it does feel like that. But yeah, really, really interesting. How have you, I mean, there must have been like loads of challenges that you faced in your career. How have you gone and like challenged that status quo to make people think a bit differently as well?
I think it starts with yourself, is asking yourself that, because I often feel like we lack the ability to really listen. So you kind of have the solution in your head as a professional, because this is how we've been doing it. So you don't listen to what the business is saying to actually understand business, but you're rather listening to give your solution that you already thought of before the meeting. So I think it's challenging myself in that. As women, we like to talk, and I found it very difficult to often listen to what's being said. And if you intensely listen to business and understand, you make time to understand business, often that perspective and it's easier to challenge the status quo, and it almost happens naturally. As where if you go and have your own perceived set of ideas of what needs to happen. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's really brilliant. And I think you know, I just wanted to reinforce what you said and make it obvious to anyone who's watching or listening who might be in a little bit of a doubt about that. So that's really interesting. Moving on, Junita, one of the things that is such a hot topic is being sustainable. And often as resilience professionals, we probably don't think about it enough. So how should we behave to be more sustainable, thus leading to us being resilient? And you know, I've never asked anybody this question, and I'm really excited to hear what you have to say.
So it's quite interesting, and I'll share this with you after this, but I actually just wrote an article to say, is it the end of risk management as we know it, as a discipline? Because I feel that it really requires a big change for us, for what we do to be sustainable. So firstly, I think we need to be agile in our approach. If we see something's not working or not working for that specific business unit or company, to be able to change our approach. So I think we need to be very agile as resilient professionals, and we need to be solution driven. So often I feel like you're selling a product, right? So here I come with my little my little plan, and we're going to make your business now fit into this little plan. And what works for one doesn't work for another. And to be flexible and to be innovative in our solutions. And I wish I could just like stand on a mountain and get everybody to understand this. But what we do doesn't have to be boring, compliance-driven stuff. What we do is actually so exciting, and you're getting into the business and you're having these discussions, and it's such a cool opportunity. And I feel like we need to be innovative and look at ourselves and say, guys, we need to look at the way that we're doing things and make sure that it's solution-driven and right for business. And then leads me to another point that I'm very passionate about, is that trust. Our relationship needs to be built on trust. We need to become business trusted advisor, and not the policeman walking around telling them how to do certain things. And that's not why I think we're there. And if we want to be sustainable, we can't have that approach at all. I think we need to make it our business to know business. Like I said, we don't, I think, often listen and say, this is what we're facing, and now you're just forcing this one solution on me, and it's not right for the business. And then really focusing on building a culture rather than more spreadsheets and plans and admin-driven things. And that's why a risk and resilience professional, in my view, need to be somebody with influence, somebody that can influence behavior, influence a culture of ownership, because it's ultimately risk and resilience as a department, or it should be owned by business. It needs to be integrated into business. So if we want to be sustainable, I think it's our responsibility to play that support role, but get to influence the business to think about it in a certain way. So yeah, I hope that helps, because it's quite a mouthful, but I think a lot has to change for us to take this discipline further and to really make an impact on business.
Yeah, it does help. So I'll give you that. I just want to jump off my chair and like give you a high five. It's so true though. It's like, guys, are you doing this as a resilience professional? Doesn't matter if you're male or female. Are you doing these things? Are you actually understanding? Are you listening? Are you actually making things relevant for the business and knowing the business and understanding it? That's what sustainability is about. It's in the resilience industry, because it's two very different things. And the things that the tips that Junita has shared, we need to just take a step back and have a think about whether we're doing that ourselves, and use it as a checklist to see, am I really doing this? And if you're watching this or you're listening and you are doing these, please comment on the relevant boxes and or contact me and let me know what you're doing, and if you want to share any other tips or you've got challenges, because we're always up for that. So that's really great. Now, you alluded to this a little bit earlier in your other response, Junita, but the future of risk and resilience as a discipline. This and I don't want to talk too much about the pandemic, but there's been a lot of companies that are like, well, we just work from home, like we don't really need it. Some people are like losing their jobs as resilience professionals. Our primary job is to actually prepare, protect, and help the organizations respond and recover, regardless of what you're doing, discipline you're doing. What is the future for you, and what does that look like?
So I think the future is what we make of it, right? So either we can choose to continue and probably run into problems trying to defend why business needs to do these things, or we can choose to be relevant and make an impact and add value to the business. So I think to do that, we need to integrate it into day-to-day activities. As I said, it needs to be ingrained into the culture of the business, the way that staff think. So if I'm busy with something and I know I'm the only person in the business that can use this particular model, they need to realize that there's an issue here, and I need to take ownership of it. So resilience professionals really need to empower the business to make a real impact, and then it really needs to move from the silo of compliance to a more strategic business enabling role. And I'm very passionate about this because, if I have to see the word GRC one more time, governance, risk and compliance, I want to pull my hair, because it's essential for business. And even if it's not worded or formally written in that way in your organization, what we do on a day-to-day basis involves managing the risk, planning for things if things doesn't go a certain way, having different scenarios. It's all ingrained in what we do, and I think I really would like to see that we move away from that as a compliance tick the box exercise to a really strategically enabling role. So that's my hope. But as I said, I think at the end of the day, it's all going to be what we make of it and how it evolves, and how we have that influence on the industry as professionals, saying that, but it should be, or it should shift from the one compliance silo to the more enabling business growth part of strategy silo. So that's what I would like to see, and I think that will also enable the sustainability of it that we spoke about earlier as well.
Absolutely. It's, I love that, because it's a different way of looking at it. And, we might be looking at it like that. We might not call it that sustainable element of it, and that impact. And this goes back to you really empowering individuals to think a bit differently. And I think being a practitioner as well as doing podcasting, I know what it's like to work in the industry. And often you're just like focused, like, okay, get the stuff done, and then it's done, and then you look at it in 2 years and it's like changing that attitude. So it's if we can change that as professionals, then you've already made an impact. Even if you've just done one thing, that's still making an impact in the resilience industry. So Junita, thank you so much for like sharing your insights in this very fast and quick short episode. I mean, we could probably talk about this for hours, but to give us all an insight. Now, before we head off, is there any final words you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I think just in conclusion, probably a conclusion I also came to while doing this podcast is the fact that to be able to challenge the status quo and how we do things, we need to actually start with ourselves and challenge our own status quo and say, like, why are we doing things a certain way? Is it still relevant? Is it still making an impact? So I think it starts with us before we can actually externally go and say, but okay, how do we do things differently going forward? So, but so great to talk to you, and yeah, thank you for the great work you do for the industry and the you inspiring and empowering and also influencing risk and resilience professionals. So thank you for that as well.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your insights. I love it. There's loads of key takeaways, but one of them is I love the conclusion to all of this is actually it starts with you. So again, I go on about this all the time. Resilience starts with you first, and this is why I'm so excited to have you here, because we are literally like think so alike but differently as well. So thank you so much, Junita. It's been a pleasure. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in today, whether you have been listening to us or watching. Truly grateful. If you've got any tips that you'd like to share, then please do get in touch with us. You can find us on LinkedIn. All the details are down below. And if you like this, then give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the Resilience Pod website, resiliencepod.com. We're on all the social media platforms, all the listening platforms. So guys, thank you once again. And this is me, your host, Reena Singh, with our guest, Junita, saying bye for now. And until next time, keep on investing in your resilience.
Bye-bye. Thank you.